called Stepmother. Remarrying barely 3 months after one's wife's death is unfair, an insult to the departed soul, and cannot be condoned. But I would like to say that it was the last wish of the deceased, because my plea that a mother's presence was greatly needed for my son would sound pretty unconvincing. My conscience is clear as far as the matter is concerned, and I hope that even in the heavens my action would not be criticized unfairly. To cut a long story, I remarried, and though the lessons of motherhood may not have sounded like music to the new bride, I told Amba the very first day that I married her to be a mother to my little son and to help him get over the sorrow of his mother's demise. 2 months pass. I would go out for evening walks with my son Manu, and while returning, I would stop by at some of my friends. Munu would be as cheerful as a lark in their company, but actually, the intention behind these visits was not merely entertainment, but to show off his extraordinary talent. When my friends were affectionate towards him or praised him for his remarkable intelligence, my heart would swell with pride. I would be so overjoyed. One day, Monu and I were sitting in Babu Jwala Singha's house. He was a great friend of mine. We had no differences, but this did not mean that we shared our pettiness, our family strife, or financial relationships. On the contrary, even during these meetings, we were careful to save our dignity, and not a word about our miserable condition would come to our lips. We always concealed our ignominy. As a result, there was a distance in our camaraderie and a detachment in our closeness. Suddenly, Jwala Babu asked Manu, "Your mother loves you a lot, doesn't she?" I smiled and looked at Munu. I was certain of his answer, for I knew it well that his Amma loved him very much. To my great surprise, Munu did not answer, but teardrops began to trickle down his face. His eyes brimmed with tears. I was embarrassed. Those tears shattered the beautiful image of Amba that I had safely tucked away in my heart for the last 2 months. Jwala Singha looked at him with a little disbelief, and again asked him, "Why do you cry, my son?" Munu said, "I'm not crying. It's the smoke that hurts my eyes." It was natural for Jwala Singha to suspect a stepmother's affection, but in fact, even I became suspicious. So after all, Amma was not the goddess of love and affection whom I would not tire of praising. When I left his place, my heart was heavy and I could hardly lift my face for shame. On my way home, I started thinking about the manner I should show her that I was angry. Should I lie down on the bed with my face covered? When Ambo inquired, I would sternly say that I have a headache and that she shouldn't hassle me. If she woke me for a meal, I would reply rudely to her. Ambo would surely understand that something has gone against my wish. She would fall at my feet asking for forgiveness. Then I would utter such snide words as would pierce her heart and make her cry so much that she would remember this all through her life. But then it occurred to me, what if I saw her cheerful face and let go of myself? A loving glance, a sweet word, playful banter would be enough to knock down my ruthless anger into pieces. I became annoyed at this frailty of my heart. What has come over me? Why did my mind change so soon? I was so certain that I would not be swept off my feet by the gale of sweet words and charming, playful glances. And now I have been reduced to such a state that I couldn't even bear its gentle sway. These thoughts strengthened me, but my pent-up anger was gradually losing its grip over me. Finally, I controlled my heart and put on a face of false anger and made up my mind that as soon as I was there, I would burst out. How I wished that the strong gusts of delay didn't blow away the dark clouds of anger, but the moment we reached home, Amba rushed and lovingly took Manu in her lap and said, in a voice that was warm with love, "Where were you roaming around so late today? Look, I have made such yummy pakris for you." My anger disappeared in a moment. I thought that it would be a great crime to be angry with such a kind soul. Munu is an innocent child. It is quite possible that he may have remembered his mother and wept. Amba cannot be held responsible for this. Our feelings are independent of our earlier thoughts. We think such words to express them, but the words tend to fall. The words tend to fail us on such occasions, and the real feelings come out naturally. So I said nothing sarcastic to her, nor did I go to bed in anger, but said very gently, "Today Munu embarrassed me so much. When Jwala Babu asked him if his new mother loved him, he started crying. I nearly died of shame. I could never think, even in my dreams, that you could have ever been harsh to him. Perhaps motherless children have a heart like a picture draped with a delicate curtain. Even a little gust of wind is enough to uncover it." Though these words were spoken gently, Amba's cheerful face looked a little crestfallen. She was in tears and said, "I have been as careful as I could since the first day, but I think it is impossible for me to erase the sorrow of his mother's death from his heart. Even if I lay down my life for him, the stigma of a stepmother against my name will never be wiped away." I was afraid that this conversation may have an adverse effect, but the next day itself I saw a marked change in her behavior. I saw her devoting herself to Munu from morning till night, so much so that she would not even care for me. But I was not so noble a soul as to renounce my comfort for Munu's sake. Sometimes Amba's neglect annoyed me, but I never ever mentioned this to her. One day I returned home from the office a little earlier than my usual time. I saw Munu standing at the door, facing inside. I felt like playing hide and seek with him, so I tiptoed up gently, covered his eyes, but alas, his cheeks were tear-soaked. I immediately removed my hand as if stung by a snake. My heart suffered a blow. I lifted him up in my lap and asked, "Manu, why do you cry?" Saying this, my eyes too became tearful. Manu swallowed his tears and replied, "No, I am not crying." I embraced him and asked him, "Did Amma scold you?" Manu sobbed and said, No, she loves me very much." I couldn't believe this, so I asked again, "If she really loved you, you wouldn't have cried. The other day also you had wept at Jwala Babu's house. You are hiding something from me. Perhaps your mother was a little angry with you." Manu looked at me in distress and said, "No, she loves me very much. That is why I cry so many times. My Amma loved me so much. She left me and went away. My new Amma loves me more than ever. I'm scared that she too may leave me and go away." Having said this, Munu burst into tears. I too wept with him. Amba's affectionate feelings had caused such anguish to Manu's tender heart. For a while I was stunned. I remembered the saying of a poet, "The noble souls do not stay on this earth for long." Was the future being predicted through the child's words? God forbid that such ominous days should come. But soon reason prevailed and I dispelled this apprehension from my mind. I realized that it was just that this mother's death had forged a link between love and separation in his mind. Carrying Munu in my lap, I went to Amba and smilingly told her, "Ask him why he cries." Amba was taken back. Her face lost color. She said, "You ask him." I said, "He weeps because you love him so much. He's afraid that you too will leave him and go away like his mother." Just as a mirror, when wiped clean, sparkles, Amba's face too became radiant. She took Munu away from my lap, and perhaps for the first time she kissed his little foot lovingly. Then a great sorrow befell us. Never had I thought that Munu's ill-omened fear would come true soon. Perhaps he had seen destiny through his innocence and heard the terrible words of messengers of death. Hardly had 6 months gone by when Amba was struck with influenza, and death snatched her away from us. Once again, our well-settled family fell apart. Amba adored Munu and confirmed a mother's true love for her son. During the winters, she would get up early, before daybreak, to prepare breakfast for Munu. She pampered him. Naturally, he had become naughty and stubborn. He would not eat a morsel unless she fed him. He would not go to bed unless she fanned him. He would tease her and bother her, but Amba derived spiritual pleasure from all of this. While suffering from influenza, she had no energy left, even to turn to her side, and burnt with high fever. Yet she worried about his early breakfast. Alas, that selfless love was now a dream. Even the memory of that dream brings joy to the heart. With Amba's death, Munu's naughtiness and playfulness disappeared forever. Now he is in the image of sorrow and hopelessness, but he cries no more. After losing such a precious thing as her, nothing seems to bother or scare him any longer. The end. Thank you for listening, and enjoy the rest of your day.